Hello, welcome to another episode of Breaking Into Cybersecurity, and we are going live. Thank you all for joining. Normally we do our intro countdown, and I totally forgot about it. So let's go do that now. Hi, welcome to another episode of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. Thank you for joining us live on Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And today we're sharing another story of an individual that has come from a very interesting background and broken themselves into cybersecurity. Zinet Kemal. Zinet, you want to tell us a little bit about your background and where you started and how did you get here?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, for having me here. I know it's a long time coming. I was supposed to join in last year, but then this year happened, but that's fine. My name is Zinet Kemal. I moved here to the US 9 years ago now from Ethiopia. I had a legal background, law degree there, worked there for a few years, and then moved to Minnesota, USA 9 years ago, and then started, the whole journey of moving into tech, going back to school and doing the certs and everything. But if you want me to go in detail about the whole journey, I'm happy to.
Absolutely. We're going to get there bit by bit. But let's talk about your experiences coming from Ethiopia to the States, because we know we have a lot of individuals that come to the United States, and sometimes they struggle a little bit with getting adjusted and getting their first role. Do you want to share any insights of maybe what you did and how you were able to be successful in that for those that might be following in your journey as well there?
Yeah. So when I moved here, the goal was just to get into a good university, and then, I mean, I've always wanted to get into technology. I never had that opportunity, like the flexibility of switching fields. That isn't an option. If you are in a social science route, you have to choose a couple of fields back then. So having that flexibility, I think, okay, so this is the opportunity to do that. So it took me a while to decide where I want to go, because there are ample things that you can do even in tech. But just
Mhm.
deciding that, it took me a while. Like, I did a lot of thinking, and then I joined a local community college to do computer programming, classes, and associate degree. 2 years later, completed that. There are struggles with that because I didn't have the background in computing and the math classes needed, because in law school you don't learn those things at all. So I had to recall a lot of the things from 10th grade or high school, that type of things I had to do refresh. So that I can get directly, into my major, into computer programming, classes. And then it was intimidating as well. It's a lot of men, not people who look like me, were in the classes. In a lot of the classes, I'm not talking about one or two. And then even transitioning to do my bachelor's degree into a 4 year university, that was the same thing. And up until then, I haven't heard about cybersecurity at all in none of the classes. It's, learning about, computer networking, computer programming, different languages, that type of thing. So it's a bit of a challenge even at that point, just getting caught up into a lot of those things, not having the necessary background. It's kind of intimidating when people, where we're talking about, we've done this Python program in high school, and I'm like, I don't have computer in high school. I didn't have a computer even in high school. We didn't have that access in Ethiopia. I always talk about, whenever I go to places, we had in 12th grade one computer assigned to 4 3 people, 1 hour per week, and then we would be, just fighting to get a chance to get a stroke at the keyboard. Even, that was the situation. So getting caught up with the concepts and everything was a challenge, of course, when you're transitioning. So there wasn't a cyber thing up until then still.
Okay. One of our live guests asked, correct them if they're wrong, but you've written a children's book. And yes, you have, but we're going to get to that part in the story a little bit later. So let's not skip ahead.
Yeah.
Um, so you're going through your associates, your bachelor's, you haven't heard of cybersecurity. You're catching up in all the math and aspects like that. When did you hear about cybersecurity, and why did you get interested in it?
Yeah, so it was all the projects. So I haven't decided that. So initially it was just to do, because I came here 8 months pregnant and a 3-year-old already in my hand. So the goal was like, okay, I'm going to do a 2-year associate's degree program, completed that successfully. I didn't have to do extra, classes that get admitted because I was doing the catching up, with the math classes. And if you can do it, by the way, nothing to be intimidated, 'cause if I can do it, anybody can, because I didn't have that background, but it's still, doing, you have a lot of math things that you have to be doing, in computer, some of the classes, right? College algebra, some of the necessary things to complete the program. And then I wasn't sure still, completing the associate's degree. Also, maybe I need to learn more so that I would have a perspective of where I might land, and then join a computer science program at a 4-year university, right? And even then, it was the same thing. It was deadlines, doing a lot of projects, learning computer programming languages, and then last year of that, 4-year program and computer science degree program, there was a class in computer security, and the professor, I'm always thankful for him, Professor Kalim. He, suggested there is a cyber defense competition that he's coaching, that he was soliciting students to join that, to represent the university at that competition, CCDC, and that was in 2018, mind you. It wasn't a very long time ago. So I joined that just to see how things are, and then participated. It's a lot of self-training. It took months of Saturday trainings. It's mostly self-teaching of a lot of the team to represent in a blue team. So it's a simulated, for people who don't know what CCDC is, a cyber defense, a collegiate cyber defense competition where there will be a team, and then you will be representing as a blue team, and then a simulated environment. You will be doing red teaming, and the judge will be, So I somehow managed to make the team. When we started, it was a full classroom of students, but it requires commitment. So there were a few people that were left at the end. So I was representing the Linux team to administer that. And, everything is a new knowledge, right? So, but the fact that I was able to participate in that competition and just seeing the team interaction, a lot of the things just gave me a perspective of what security might look like. I think that is the initial spark where I am interested in security came from, and then afterwards I started doing network class certification. This is while I was doing my undergrad, and by then I already have the third child in our life, so it's getting pretty hectic. But I and then I did security class and CYSA, and then I started to get more and more interested. And at that point, I was also doing at a local government internship in the IT department, just development type of thing, web content management. And then I started looking for security internships, anything related to that, and that's where I landed in IT auditing, doing cybersecurity and risk assurance program at that local government organization where I was interning, which turned into a full-time job afterwards. So that's the journey and how I got introduced, and then I started loving it. So that was the initial start. CCDC. That's what I always say.
The CTDC, and then you were on the Linux team. So not even the Windows team, you're on the Linux team, which is, I would say, harder for some, because most getting used to a computer, they use the GUI versus using command shell and command line. So congratulations on that. On top of everything, with your growing family, I know that's quite a feat, because when my son was younger and I was doing my master's and working, it was very challenging. So you got your first role in audit. Did that remind you of your legal background?
A little bit. I mean, it was more like, the controls and everything. I mean, a lot of the skills are transferable, right? Attention to detail and a lot of it. And while I was in that role, I get to experience, auditing different engagements in different spaces of cybersecurity within that same organization. And then at that point, I started to pursue, even though I don't have the years of experience, CISA, the CISA certification. I was able to get that pending getting the experience, and you get some of the waivers and that type of things. But it was definitely helpful having that knowledge and the essential skills. I don't call them the soft skills, but it was very helpful, and just the learning just started from there. You learn more on the job, so that was really helpful. Yeah.
What are some of the tell our audience about some of the extra things that you had to do, both on the math side at home and the programming side for the CTDC, as well as your continuous learning, because you make it sound all so easy that you just did it, you learned a lot, but what did you do? How did you do it?
I mean, with the CCDC, like I said, it was doing it's extra work, right? Do you have your undergrad full-time thing? There's the kids at home, and there is, the whole discovery of what do I want to do with the degree when I'm done. And then at that competition, the goal is, okay, if I have like this hands-on work, like, environment, maybe that's a good exposure. And then to try it too, right? So we ended up turning, third in the state of Minnesota, our university that we represented. That was pretty great. And then, I mean, of course, it does require a lot of time commitment, self-studying. Like I said, I didn't have those backgrounds, so it was like learning from the scratch. So I'm a good learner, I think, and I learn fast, but it also takes time, when you have to be, dealing with kids, and then doing, completing your program at the same time, finding something that you love to do, in the process, in finding your career.
Absolutely. So did you, the things that you did to learn, were they like just the stuff provided by the school? Did you go out and look at YouTube videos? What were some of the resources that you used?
Yeah, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of collaboration and just learning. And there were materials that would be provided by the coaches and the captain of the team. And then when I started the certification, of course, I got scholarship afterwards, after the competition, to do, Network Plus, CompTIA, and Security Plus, and CYSA. And then there was the internship. At one point, I wanted to drop the internship because it was so many things to do. But then I thought, that is like the practical thing that I saw that as a way, foot in the door. So I started talking about like my interest to be in cybersecurity to my supervisor within that team, when I was interning, and then to other interns. And surprisingly, and this is a lesson maybe for other people, it's always good to know your intentions and where you want to land. That intern who listened, who knew about my intention of working and finding that related security related role within that organization, ended up being in someone else's, supervisor's ears. And then that person wanted to interview me, connect me with his boss, and then that turned out to be, I was able to intern there for 3 months before graduation and landed a full-time job as a result. So I always say, having that degree and then the certification and the internship, like in parallel, sort of helped me, I think, speed up that, building up that career and that. And then, of course, it still continues, 3 roles later, since I joined the field of cybersecurity. I'm every day Googling and learning and YouTubing and all of those things, and pursuing certifications, like, up until now. You might have seen it in my bio, like I'm always, it's not about, having and accumulating certifications, but it's about getting that focus to learn about a specific thing at a time when I could be doing a million things, because I'm also doing my grad school program at Georgia Tech currently.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. So 4 more courses to go. So hopefully by the end of this year, I will be graduating from Georgia Tech with a master's in cybersecurity. So the learning continues, and I think that's the main thing, the passion and the willingness to learn and being coachable.
Okay, so here's a question. You mentioned that you were talking to another intern, and they told their supervisor that you're interested in cybersecurity. Did you have to interview for that role, or you ended up just getting the role because you were already an intern at that organization?
Yeah, so it was a big organization, a very huge one. So that person was his mentor. So he mentioned that to him. So he happens to be working in IT auditing, and he's a supervisor and leader that I truly admire to this day. And he just emailed me, and that was a surprise for me. Like, okay, now I want to, and then we just had a chat over coffee, and then he just took me to his supervisor to introduce me to his boss, where the current supervisor that I was working for was willing, because he know my intention, and he wants us to land in spaces where we are interested. He said, even if you get paid from this internship, I'm letting you work internship a few days of the week there. That's how it started initially, and then I got transferred completely to that IT auditing, cybersecurity, risk assurance spaces. And then 3 months later, the full-time job hiring happened. And at that point, did I interview? I don't even remember. But I did. Yes, I did. So
Yeah, so that was your first role. Tell us about some of your experiences of growing, because oftentimes we hear of individuals that they might get their internship, they might get their first role, but then when they're applying for next roles, if they only stayed 6 months doing the internship, still trying to get that next role is sometimes a struggle for them. What was your approach in looking for your second role, let's say, and the job hunting that you did, and how did you approach that?
Yeah, so that was again in 2020, in the beginning of the pandemic. So I started completely, remote, and I had my first child by then. So I was just getting back from my maternity leave, and yeah, I mean, so I had IT auditing, so I wanted to do the engineering aspect of it because I had the CISA, and then a lot of the certifications that I had, I wasn't putting them to practice. So I had an interesting role at the state of Minnesota, again, a state government. So I applied for an information security engineering role there, and that's where I landed. So I just made sure that a lot of the certifications that I had, the skills that I gained even in IT auditing, to translate into that engineering role when I was interviewing for that, and those were very helpful. But you talked about my first role, maybe coming here or back in Ethiopia. When I moved here, I didn't start. When I was in school, I worked in a library, part-time as a librarian. I also worked as a translator, because fortunately I happen to have spoken, English even when I came here. A good one, good enough to be able to translate, in the hospitals, and for a little bit of time. So with the kids' schedule, it didn't work out, but I worked in that. And then back home, my first job was as a legal expert well, I started as an intern in NGOs, African Child Policy Forum. I worked there for, as a paid intern there, and then transitioned into a government organization where advising, foreign investors coming into, going into Ethiopia and wanted to invest in legally, what are their options, that type of thing. So I worked in the legal department there before moving here. So yeah.
No, I think the question was more so when you might not have a lot of IT experience and you're going for that first or second role, and what are some of the challenges that you faced while you were looking for that, especially in the pandemic? Now that you mentioned you're looking for that next role in the pandemic, what was your search like?
Yeah, I think the main thing is having that confidence, because knowing that what I have is enough is the main thing, I think, for me. And I applied for that state role. I interviewed, and I didn't have a lot of problems, but it's just more so having the confidence and saying, I think if we're brave enough, I think we can achieve more than what we think that we have. So I think just being bold and going after it is what helped me, and just saying that, I have the certifications, I have the degree, what more to say? And I mean, I'm going to learn on the job. Of course, there will be things that I wouldn't know even joining that and having the world certifications. So I think believing in that has helped me, and I've only worked 2 years prior to that. So and we always question ourselves, like, do we meet every requirement? And I am that person too.
I was about to ask that.
Yeah. So I am that person. But then I slowly started to learn that, I am going to learn on the job. There will be some things that you learn, and if you don't make it, and if someone don't believe in you, of course you won't get the job. So yeah, there's that aspect to it. And then with my current role, I wasn't pursuing any role, and over LinkedIn, somebody wanted to meet in that organization. So, and it turned out to be the perfect fit. So I am currently working as a cloud security engineer at a Fortune 500 company. So yeah, I mean,
Well,
if you ask me,
let's touch on that. Let's touch on that subject. So you mentioned you weren't looking for a role. I'm guessing by this point your LinkedIn profile, which is a marketing tool for yourself, was good enough that someone reached out and wanted to chat with you about another role. So what did you do, or what would you recommend for individuals to keep their LinkedIn profile up and ready so that they have that possibility of employers reaching out to them?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, it's very interesting. I mean, I've always had LinkedIn, but I wasn't active until the pandemic. That's like the only way out. I mean, that's the only platform. Of course, we have other social medias, but I prefer LinkedIn in so many ways. So I have been updating stuff and started posting, not so much, but just, I think that has helped. And with the continuous learning, again, it's not about the posting and everything, but like having the continuous learning and having those certifications. I think as I was updating them and talking about them through posts, I think it has helped to show interest that you are heading into that direction. Even though I didn't think that I was ready at that point, I got approached. I was saying, oh no, I'm not looking for a role. I'm really happy. I'm learning. I'm growing. I even got promoted 6 months later into a senior information security engineering role in the pandemic. And that I was really happy. But then, the direction that I was heading, even though I didn't think it was that point, was into cloud security spaces. And I think before I say it, I think my profile spoke to that, because I was doing all of those things and attending, Ashish's cloud security podcast. I'm a regular in that page, and I think the comments and everything and the algorithm works in a different way. I think on LinkedIn, you know more about that. So I think those things speak for themselves. So I think letting your intentions be known and showing that interest, I think would invite other people to come to you, even if you don't think that you're ready for that. And interviews later, I guess I am meant to be there. So I joined and I'm happy. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you
So one of the comments earlier spoke to your children's book. Let's talk about that and why go down the route of authoring a book, and explain to the audience what the book's about.
Yeah, so in the middle of the pandemic, like I said, I have 4 kids, 3 kids in 3 different classes, and plus a baby at that point. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, I was just getting back from my maternity leave to work, and then everybody else is home. So so in 2021, which is last year, it's funny to say that. Mid of 2021, I just decided to write a children's book because I was getting, years of questions from my kids about, my first book is titled Proud in Her Hijab. You might see it in the background. And I posted about it a number of times on LinkedIn as well. They were asking questions about, about their hair type and how they look different from their classmates, over the years. And then the girls about their hijab, the headscarf that they wear. So I thought, these questions come up a lot. Maybe it's happening in another family too. So maybe why not write a story of our own with the children's and characters that look like us. And we have hijab books in our home, like children's books, and there weren't many. So And I think, contributing that is to write it yourself. So I think, and I didn't have any background in writing except, homework submissions, of course. So just started teaching myself on Clubhouse and on online about self-publishing, and learned that. And with the kids, because they were at home too, they were part of that process. Okay, we write the story and finished it. That was like in one sitting, the whole book. But then what do you do with it? It could have become a book. You need to have illustrators, professional editors, designers, and all of those aspects. And then you need ISBN, all of the aspects to it. I mean, it's 36 pages, but the work that goes into it, it's unbelievable. So just it's been quite a journey, and a very, very rewarding one. Just published it back in July and 3 months later or 4 months later, it was published on Amazon, became Amazon #1 bestseller. Submitted it for an award, and it also won an award under children's book category as well. So yeah, that's been the journey. It's been received really well, and my kids are proud. That's the most important thing. They have it in their classrooms. Their teachers are displaying it in their classrooms, and I've been having it in different libraries now. So it's going well, and a second one is coming up very soon.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, this one is titled "Oh No Hacked Again," a story about online safety. So this one is also inspired by my children's. Again, during the pandemic, they were spending a lot more time online, for distance learning purposes or gaming. They're gamers a lot. So I've seen more than 2 occasions that 2 of my children accounts were taken over. They're playing. I'm not going to mention the gaming platforms, but everybody knows it, and when the book comes out, they'll find out. But they have been hacked and everything. So I thought this would be a good idea to teach other children as well, to know the importance of online safety as much as we're trying to teach them safety crossing the streets, and the real world. That's how they say it in real life, and then the digital world, right? So it's getting blurred, but I think it's important to teach them that. And then also joining the industry in general, cybersecurity, it's not very diverse, as you know. So to spark that interest with the characters that look like me and my kids, and diverse characters to portray those literatures, showing that cybersecurity can be a field that they can explore and pursue when they grow up, as a STEM. So it's really doing well. It's already it's on pre-orders. It will be released in a few days, actually. So I'm excited about that, and it's been a #1 new releases on more than 6 categories on Amazon. So it comes with a coloring book and everything. So trying new different things. So hopefully it will be received well. So I'm excited about that.
Well, share the links. Share the
Absolutely.
links of those books, and we'll include them in the chat as well. And so we're getting to the end of the half hour, and one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, you've gone through so many things, both education, moving, being in a space where you might not be in the majority of the population, and there might be tensions around that. What are some of the tips that you would share for someone that might be in a similar situation like that, and whether they want to join cybersecurity or not, but kind of follow in your footsteps?
Not in cybersecurity, but just pursuing their goals in general, right?
Either one or both.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if I were to start getting into cybersecurity, it might be a different route, because I just discovered it as I was into it. So getting a mentor it's been really interesting. I mean, I've never had the concept of getting a mentor before, back when I was in Ethiopia. It's always been struggle on your own, you gotta win by yourself kind of approach. I mean, that was never advocated for us. So I think last in 2020 is when I officially had like a mentor, and I reached out because of LinkedIn. I think there was an event for Black cybersecurity OGs that was hosted, and on there were amazing professionals that were speaking about their journey. And then that's where I saw AJ, and I approached him, and he's been my mentor ever since, and it's been great. So I think I advise people to have mentors and follow people that they, they want to be in a role, in the future, like just to see what they're interested about and what they're posting and what's the industry saying about it, the topics that's going on in the area of their, interest. But cybersecurity in general is like, people would say, I want to get into cybersecurity, but we all know that it's not a one thing. It's a broad, with 7 to 8 domains within it. So I think finding out your interest, or from whatever field that you're coming, what is your passion? I mean, you can be in any spaces that you want from scratch, just like I did. If I can do it, anybody can do it. That's what I would say. And just doing the research, finding out your area of interest, connecting with people on LinkedIn, being active on LinkedIn. I think that has been, since the pandemic for me, but I can speak to that. It's been great. And then I like this one website that I always recommend to people, cyberseek.org, where it gives you an idea of, where you want to go from entry level to advanced and intermediate into advanced level. It shows you like the pathway. I like that website. I've always recommended that, to see where you might, from any entry point, where you might be interested, and the skills needed, and then what certifications might be helpful. It gives you a picture of where you want to go. So, and then just doing something consistently, even on hard days, like pursuing these certifications is not an easy thing. On top of, for example, doing a grad school, or writing a children's book, or having a full-time job, or dealing with the pandemic in general, right? We don't have to have any specific unique problems. We all have a common problem that we're dealing with currently, especially. So I think committing to one thing, I think it's important that to be consistent, even on hard days, like on the days that you don't feel like doing it, and to get back at it and do it. And then to give grace to yourself, and giving a pat on the shoulder and saying that, I have accomplished this much, and what's next for me, and approaching that from that perspective. Yeah.
Wow. Well, one of the earlier comments in regards to your point to confidence, it's awesome to hear. So wanted to share that with everyone before we go. And just to wrap up, follow myself, follow Zinet on LinkedIn if you're joining us there. If you are on YouTube, hit the subscribe button with the notification. And if you're joining us on podcast, don't forget to share with all your friends and family. And we thank you all for joining us live. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.